Good morning, everyone. Uğur Soytaş, management section at the research has been around the use. The research has been around the use of. I'd like to talk to you about. Please let me share my. I hope you can see my screen. Energy use, sustainability, and societal progress is the day, and I would like to share with you that I am extremely honored to be invited to this. And I would like to thank Lokman Hocam and his team event. Being in the context of economic review and also feel though on the one hand it helps us grow our systems into our education levels, but it also large enough to offset the. And then we start seeing a tension between what we see as human and double-edged sword, and instead of sense, can we somehow for vital well-being? For most of the energy is in economic growth models, but then the energy can be as important primary factor. Economic growth scientific disciplines, like in ignore labor there, and in sociology we know to energy has improved the living conditions, that there has been lots of conflicts and wars around key. We now are at a point where we know, and we know that economic growth, sustainability issues, especially the big recently, especially the Stiglitz and that all our economic we pursue what we make between state and citizen is of the people. Between economic growth, but economic growth economic prosperity of it, then we might have government the quality of life in the key question there has become social threshold for in broader. Now, I refer to well-being tangibly. The sociology literature looks at the issue. In economics, we talk about what should measure, what should be the for that, I'm going to go into more that tries to find the tipping point of energy. What should states actually target? As ecological economics field proposes that as being part of it, but it is more than income. It includes health, it includes equity, security, and immediate economic gains. To the picture, it is taught the philosophy of was seen as classify them as complementary eudaimonic well-being. Well, hedonic well-being hedonism term. Seeking happiness and life. It has a positive link to income and which is very commonly used in nations. Roots from the Aristotelian ethics. It is about living life and full potential, fully functional. This line of this dimension of weaker association with resource consumption, and the only measurement that I could find, it developed a eudaimonic well-being in national surveys, Gallup surveys to well-being. My and other weakly associated with determination being should include both hedonic. The way they are defined and the way they being HDI, for example, expectancy, educational national income. The eudaimonic questionnaires, right? They are hedonic and eudaimonic will be difficult to add them up or integrate them into a meaning. A recent paper with Dr. Suri well-being using objective measures. Confident about this? Well, because all human needs, not just basic needs, but is if we can find a measure that across countries. But when you ask people how in Turkey, it is all like difficult to satisfaction means that coming to the measurement side, Amartya Sen capabilities approach, right? Amartya Sen's capability look at societies, how societies of Human Development Index are determined. Martinus extended this a little bit, listing different. She also argued, unlike Amartya Sen, that people, but even if people do not utility, they get well-being from does not have a well-being only through its enabling part of Martin Nussbaum, on the other hand, argues that the additional. This well-being is measured. A review paper in annual 6 matrix. List examples. But we also identified that we also divided into there is a distinction between these two. Individual well-being does not those kind of like a theory of social utilities to come shows us. So I'm talking about this last societal level objective measures. Because it is readily available publicly, research has used that, and we also index an imperfect proxy of, because a good could be directly across countries and HDI, except the fact that it misses some of the hedonic and Now, a measure of social well-being, how are we going to use well-being can be? We well-being. Body of literature falls into this relationship between energy consumption. With a PhD student of mine and of this, we argued that at low levels, more energy use. But after the inflection, empirical work stops here. They argued empirical models implement saturation functions, which when you try to estimate the outside the reaches that zero slope or saturation point in the center. PhD student, we argued on the S could be a well, and it makes perfect sense. Actually speaking, it is become negligible. Minimizing, hence it measures the point of. Argued that this is a normative. This is a more. We argued this inflection point is, we named it as, right? We call it every individual on Earth should be entitled to subsistence use level. Beyond need point, beyond the point of maximum consumption, we should take resources from countries so that everyone is at or above the subsistence use. And we call this knee point as you're in the zone. After that point, you are over. Before these conceptual were made by the premise that we have a peak as well. But in our recent, when we take into account environmental costs, weighing the economic benefits, and we see this when we actually do so. Actually, where energy efficiency, the fact that the energy important is that most of you do not well-being economy models, etc. Now this framework gives more teeth. So you can estimate the function and peak occurs and where the colleagues perfect, but just the HDI. It is based on countries' footprints. So using a panel of 48 something, I believe, per HDI and PHDI as proxies of well-being, and using some we pursued this task. That we employed are we see a lot of decided to estimate cross-sectionally, and the function evolves over time. Observations in the model and possible heterogeneity. That we also realized that in heterogeneity issue, some type of, if you want to attribute, if you want to argue, you have to take into consideration variables. What observes in the countries? But when we use the number of observations declined, so we added the second option into the picture. Specification using panel data. We also applied baseline model with the fixed effects and both to the double machine learning. I'm not going to bore you with our estimation results. Here's a model that replicates baseline GDP growth, population intensity, and meaningful relationship between the human. When we use PHDI, we saw shaped link. $167. When we use the instrumental framework using double machine learning, the inverse also factors that could be moderating the. And we talked about the first one that we did was renewables into account so that the peak moved because more renewables means operational safe space to the threshold be taking policy target because it's that with respect to the climate out there. And when we take care of this in extreme depression countries, we saw that in it didn't reveal any energy that in those environments energy is used more for using energy for more hedonic or eudaimonic purposes. There are causes across countries resource use to societal dimensions, and we use like modern societies, achievement for especially modern and energy consumption are taken into context. There are more long-run than now, the emissions. So these are the work is just the framework, but it tells us that there is societal optimum of resource use. We discussion to the then, although as I said before, this our sample error may be valid this tipping point. It's not about using energy from more effective. Raises behavioral well-informed their energy consumption, which is available in social science. And it was and we see this do not take into account externalities, should result in higher environmental penalty to consumption. problems in the utility. And I saw that the differences, this gap gets even wider. Additional that people do not get utility. That is, we have a car gives more utility to be ahead of others. We labor, economic activity, identical, and everyone is better off. In economic activity, overwhelm optimum. Of course, two lines of literature and show countries are consuming more and more. But there are other reasons, like the systems are locked in to, especially our just an or technical feasibility. It is more overnight. You have to do it in a phase-out plan. Why we are also locked in the current our financial systems, our systems are geared toward GDP growth, not societal. Association Iceland, Scotland, and these people argued that it will be an important part of our government budget of children. We are going in our countries. This development and these people that can well-informed policies create energy consumption and societal well-being us all. And thank you very much for
thank you. Do we have any questions?
Definitely insightful of your discussion. I got the societal what you are thinking about the the social welfare. I was thinking also the many part, especially the nutrient of the food. So they have the less access of the food. So in that, especially the lower,
That's a very good. That need more energy and poor countries where they are is justified. And my friend dictator, this developed countries and allocate them to the framework is that we are experiencing in the science area that whole justice framework, something around national body like UN, which hasn't with some kind of international fund that helps less financed from regarding that. Energy in food deprived, well-known Maslow pyramid hierarchy of needs that we need safety and shelter, and we will not so to move is justified, especially where the society issues.
my kind of my from my so for using the we need the more kind of using so when we see the even the perspective in general the developed kind of energy also will hamper the thank you.
Energy access is a problem of energy, but what I'm looking at efficiency of energy use is not of energy use, or we are assessing. We should not just look at. We should look at the social costs. Just for resource consumption, collar jobs, and in less labor intensive, more energy intensive industries. There's also a risk of this. Less labor income. economic growth or to buy things. Comes into the issue, how can we, when people are not, do we go with the universal basic income concept and then allocate this basic income? Who gets what is? So these are very large questions. The societal well-being and resource use framework, the use of AI has made us more effective, but there is also the if we can integrate moves to the right. Have more energy consumption. That's basically what my without societal well-being. My empirical model and the models, they are not that not only that, current intergenerational regarding AI use, but in order all societies, all economies in the world, intergenerational, how industries are going to evolve systems.
My name is Lokman Gündüz. Working talk. My what is the key? Assuming that Turkey is magic in your study. But assuming that the after a peak, there are getting that yes. So what would be the policy makers in Turkey? I mean, with us today. Thank you.
Presented policy target, it moves, right? Even 2 times more the share of renewables. For Turkey, without taking that 5,000 as I know inflection and the peak. So it is in the in the third zone probably, but close to that's actually on Turkey will gain more time by investing in the renewables, and we have than that, Turkey also needs to. We know that our country is the well-being that danger in Turkey. These are all political and social. The government should stop looking at this. Well-being is the ultimate overarching goal of all. Well-being I'm talking about includes income, it includes economic activity, that social inclusion, democracy, rule of law, all institutions show to maximize societal value. I hope this answers your question.
Again, Professor.
Opinion about it's not only Turkey. Turkey is not. We have a Turkic word. What is the Turkic word perspective and energy to establish different framework all together countries, including Turkestan.
Good question. Some of our countries we have, and we are going to them. But targeting societal well-being, not just also has a lot of gives us an option to lead the towards economic growth seeking just like the well-being economy Turkic economies can show the world that societal well-being in a meaningful way. We do not and political costs of doing things right, and we do living in our countries. In some regarding some comments, we raised the flag international, so the countries can follow us, follow our lead in that.
Professor. Now we will have a